Hi everyone, hope you're all doing well and welcome to the Navin Times Homegrown and Organic, a workshop on growing vegetables, organic vegetables in your own home garden. Today in our studio we have with us Yogita Mehra and Karan Mandral. They own the Green Essential store, which is in Porvorim, and it's a store that has everything you need to grow your own vegetables and fruits organically at home. And these are experts who are going to teach us the basics of how to start your own home garden and grow vegetables organically. Now, for those who already have a garden, they are going to give us expert tips. So, thank you both of y'all. Thank you so much for coming on our show. And I really feel like I'm standing in a little garden, you know. It feels nice, it feels lovely, and fresh more than anything else. So both of you, y'all are from very different backgrounds. Yogita, you have done your master's in environmental economics.
That's right.
You have been a researcher with TERI. And Karan, you have been into technology, media, you've been into communication and marketing. So from that field to gardening and to organic fruits, vegetables, how did this journey start? What motivated you all?
It's all her fault.
It is, and it's a great fault. I mean, I'm so happy she made that fault, because if she had not, done that, we wouldn't all be here. But y'all are quite well known, amongst people who love gardening and stuff like that. And so, tell us, how, Yogita, what happened?
So it actually all started with pudina, mint. You'll see one of the pots there. It's now a standard feature in my garden. Yeah,
okay,
it's right there.
Right.
I wanted fresh pudina leaves for my tea every morning, and you buy one bunch and you use it for one tea and maybe the second tea, and by the end of it, it looks like you want to just put it in the bin.
Right, and it darkens also.
It darkens.
Yes.
It just looks limp. It doesn't smell fresh. So a friend suggested why I don't try growing pudina.
Right.
So I tried it, and the first time it grew well for a little while, and then it died. And I realized I overwatered it.
Okay.
Then I tried it again, and it grew well, and then again it died, and I realized I didn't water it enough. So it took a little bit of back and forth, and that really got me hooked into it, because when something works, it pulls you by the nose, and before you know it, you have one pudina pot, and then you're trying tomatoes, and you're trying chilies, and you're trying something else, and suddenly you have like a garden. And that's really the progression.
I know. Because I'm sure, with Goa, we have so much of space, and people have more space than other places to grow whatever. So when I see other people, having their gardens, I'm so envious. And that's how even I started. But you've gone to an absolutely different level. So what is the first thing that you would say that you have to keep in mind if you want to start your own home garden? Like, what do we do? How?
So, there is a book that I've read about, or either I've not really read the book, but I've read the cover. And it says the answer to how is yes.
Okay.
So, by which I mean, basically, once you decide you really want to do this, and
you
you're
just
really
go
wanting
ahead.
to do ahead, it'll pull you by the nose, like Yogita said. And you will get into it. So,
correct.
I waited and watched for 1 year, saw doing some stuff in the garden, didn't do anything about it. My God, it's so much work and all that. Then after 1 year, even I couldn't sit. So, then I got involved, and that's how we
It is so exciting, isn't it?
Yes,
right.
It is. You
right.
can't ignore it.
So I suppose I am a newcomer, and I want to start my own garden. What do I do first? What should I be looking at? What should I plan? What should I keep in mind? Can we start? Can you tell us what?
Sure. So the first thing you got to understand is what kind of space you have. Whether are you growing in a balcony? Do you have a sunny terrace? Do you have a garden? Do you have a big garden, small garden?
Right.
So figure out the space and figure out the amount of sunlight you get, because most vegetables that we eat require at least 4 to 6 hours of direct sunlight on the plants. So we can talk later about what can be grown in shade, but that is really essential.
Okay.
And then once you figured out whether it's in pots or whether it's in the ground, then the next step really would be to make a list of what you want to grow, what you like to eat, and based on that, that will be the basis of what you will do, how you will get your seeds, how you will grow your seedlings. But once that is set, then you've got to bring your attention to soil. Soil is, for an organic gardener, everything begins and pretty much ends with soil.
With the soil.
Good, healthy soil. And that really is something that one needs to focus
In
on.
a
Okay.
sense, you are not taking care of your plants. You're just taking care of the soil, which will take care of
Take
your
care
plants.
of the plants.
So
Okay.
that's
So,
really
you know,
how
Karan, we all use the word organic very loosely now. I mean, it's so cliche. What I would like to ask is, how would you exactly define organic? I mean, since you all have been growing organic, I think you all are the experts to tell us, okay, what exactly would it entail? How would mine be organic if I'm growing some chilies and yours not be? You know, I
Right.
want to know the difference.
So I think that there are two levels at which you can look at this.
Okay.
Big picture is just this. You are trying to use methods that nature uses. You are trying to mimic nature in some way, natural processes, maybe enhance them and focus them so that your plants do a little better than they would out in nature.
Right.
So the first thing is, it's a natural growing process as opposed to a chemical based growing process, which we'll hear about in farming, and quite often people even employ in their gardens.
Right.
So now the second way to look at it is, what do you use and not use? What does this mean eventually in a practical sense once
Yes.
you go and work on the garden, as
Correct.
you said? So you cannot use things that came out of a factory like urea.
Okay.
Example.
Right.
That is a chemical input.
Right. So
and
no chemicals.
That's something
Yes.
you cannot use pesticides, most importantly. I think all of us over the last 10-15 years have learned about how much overuse of pesticide is happening and how much damage they're causing to us and to the environment. So that's absolutely no go.
Right.
As soon as you introduce chemical things into a sort of a biological or a natural growing system, the natural growing system gets undermined.
Yeah.
So you
Right.
either choose, you want to do chemical, that's fine. We believe there's many downsides to that. And if you want to do it naturally, then you have to be pretty much 100% committed to that.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we spoke about soil. You know, I know that you all have planned a lot of demonstrations and of course tips you're going to give us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move a little aside, and you can start with your demonstration. But would it be okay that I keep asking you guys questions?
Sure.
Because our viewers will be sending in questions. So viewers, if you're watching, please do send in your question. They're really lovely people and they will answer all your questions, and they're experts. So I have so many questions, but she said she's not going to answer any of mine. She said she's going to let the viewers first ask, and then if there is time, she is going to answer my questions. So I'm just going to move out, and Yogita and Karan, please take over and please start. Yes,
Lovely.
thank you.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
So shall we start
So-
with the soil then?
I think, yeah, the soil is the best place to start, and it's a great shortcut, and hopefully
Yeah.
people will find this easy to do in addition to good for your plant's health. So,
So there's a lot that you will hear before and after about soil, but I'm going to show you a quick, simple and an easy way to make great soil at home, in your garden or in your for your pots. So we start with whatever soil you've got. You may have sandy soil. If you're in Goa, of course, you would have sandy soil or clayey soil. Both these have good aspects and bad aspects to it, but they can both be improved upon. And basically you use the same formula to improve upon them. Now what I have here is very clayey soil. This is just 2 parts of soil from the garden. There's a certain proportion that we use. So if you can see, I have 2 same size pots, so that's 50%. Half of my soil mix is made from whatever soil I have. If you had sandy soil, that would work just as well. And the other half is broken up into 2 components. I have here vermicompost. Vermicompost is basically worm poo, you can say, and it contains a lot of the nutrients that your plants are going to require, and it also contains a lot of microbes, and you'll hear a lot more about microbes as we go along. And lastly, here what I have is coco peat. Coco peat does not have nutritional value, but it's what we call a soil conditioner. Now what that means simply is that when it has larger particles, so when you mix this in your soil mix, it allows the water to drain. It doesn't create swampy, tight packed conditions, and it also holds water, so you need to water your plants less frequently, and that is very good for plant health, especially where fungal problems go.
So this actually helps at both times of the year. In the summer, when you want it to hold moisture longer, the coco peat will assist with that. And in the monsoon, when it tends to get swampy in the pots, it will allow the moisture to drain out to a greater extent than clay soil.
So I have this soil. It's got stones in it, you know. As you are working with your soil, you can see the bigger stones. If there are stones, take them out. Otherwise, I'll just move this out of the way. Yeah, thanks. Otherwise, they may just be, you know, clayey clumps. You just break them with your hand. You put in, so that's 50% soil, 25% vermicompost, and 25% coco peat. Now the soil that I got was also very wet. It's been raining so much, so you can't really see how dry it looks, but when clayey soil dries up, you'll notice that it cracks. And when it's wet, you'll find that it forms a layer of that green moss, and that usually doesn't do anything for your soil. So by adding all this, you clear it up. Mix it well.
So usually this preparation will take you just a couple of minutes to do if you have the right ingredients. It is sort of like making instant coffee or instant noodles. That's just about as long as it takes.
It's really quick and there.
And you can get most of these inputs at almost any garden store. Vermicompost is very easily and commonly available. In the same way, coco peat is available at most nurseries and garden stores also. It will be very easy to find.
Break the little bits that you think are very clunky. Even if you don't, it's not a problem. I'm doing that just so that I can pull out large rocks if there are any in the soil, where sometimes you may find that there are. So here goes. That's it, it's ready. You smell it. Oh, it has a lovely earthy smell, and it looks nice and dark. People often come wondering whether you get black soil or not, but this is how you make great soil.
And you
that's
needn't really worry too much about small stones. Doesn't matter. It creates gaps which are actually helpful. But bigger stones you may want to move out of the way.
That's it. It's done.
Right. So I think what we will do. Any questions?
No, I mean, like you said, you know, these are available at all the stores. So is there any alternative? I mean, suppose I don't get coco peat. Is there any alternative that I can use from my kitchen actually? I'm just asking.
Great. So maybe not kitchen. So you can, of course, compost your waste in your kitchen.
Yes,
and
of
you
course.
can certainly, and you should do that.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
In many senses, we started all of this because we wanted to see people composting.
Okay.
And that's really, you know, one of the best things that we can do. We don't have to deal with garbage in our cities and so on. But you can also use cow dung. So if that is available, then, you know, somewhere close by to you can get it from somebody.
Yes.
That can also be mixed in instead of vermicompost.
Okay.
So compost, vermicompost, cow dung, any of these will do.
Okay.
And separately, if you don't find coco peat for some reason,
Yes.
you can also use like the construction sand.
All right.
You know, there is that coarse sand that you get that is used for construction.
Okay.
Usually it's more difficult to get. That's why coco peat is a better option.
But you cannot use the sand that you get on the beach.
Salt.
It contains salt. So if you absolutely can't do anything about it, then you need to wash it several times.
That's right.
You know, get all the salt off. Otherwise, your plants will die.
That's a great tip, because I've never, you know, I never thought about using sand. But since you were saying coco peat, you can use sand. I think. Thanks both of y'all. I mean, I'll remember it next time. So no sand because of the salt content.
No sea sand.
No
sea sand.
Construction is river sand.
Correct.
That is not salty.
Okay. So no. Now my sand. I mean, my soil is ready. You know, I think this is a very pertinent question, because sometimes people do not have enough of sunlight in their balconies. So if I'm going to decide on a place that, okay, this is where I'm going to have my garden, normally it's the balcony, or maybe the kitchen sill, you know, the window sill.
Yeah.
But suppose in my balcony, I do not have direct sunlight. Like, what do I do? How do I choose the place? That's my next question to you guys.
So I'd say you choose, I mean, especially if you're in a flat, you have what you have. You cannot change that unless, you know, you're changing house or something.
Right.
But there are two plants here that you may want to see. We have this bush pepper plant, And this grows perfectly well in a shaded environment. It
Okay.
does not need any direct sunlight. You
All
can
right.
see-
If you all can see, I mean, this is this.
you can see.
Yes.
It's full of
You can pluck
Yes.
one of
pepper
these.
pot.
This is still young.
Yes.
But
And you can see the pepper.
you can
Yeah.
see it's forming. It's still
Yes,
young.
yes.
But it's full of it and it's very productive.
All right.
So it's something that is great for a shaded balcony where there's no direct sunlight. Then we also have ginger over here.
Okay, that's ginger. So the one there,
This
right?
one is
Plant,
ginger.
Yes. Okay.
And haldi, for instance,
Haldi.
very closely
Same
related.
family.
That can grow very well in
Right.
shade also. So
Yes.
there are a bunch of shade tolerant plants that you can consider growing in a shaded garden.
Right.
And
right.
if maybe you're not interested in haldi and ginger and things like that, then one of the things you can grow is microgreens. So microgreens
Oh,
require
yes.
almost no light, and a lot of people have an interest in growing them.
Right, right.
These can be done in fairly poorly lit balconies also.
Okay.
Not a problem.
Right,
And you
right.
just use trays. For instance, sometimes we use trays exactly like this
Okay.
in a balcony
just
to
level
grow
it out
microgreens also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, since you've been speaking about microgreens just now, can you just, there are some maybe who don't know. Our viewers are all very intelligent, of course. But if you could just, elaborate on what microgreens are and how, I mean, are they as healthy as organic or on the same line? Like what?
See, from the perspective of nutrition, there have
Yes.
been several different stages of growth at which we consume things.
Okay.
And we consume these because we perceive these as creating either more nutrients or less.
Right.
So, for example, if you go to the market and you have an old bhindi, none of us wants to eat it because it's terrible to eat and it's not very
Chewy,
nutritious.
yes,
Right.
yes.
So we don't want to do that. So now, if you look at the growth stages, one of the things a lot of us have heard about earlier when we were younger was sprouts.
Right.
We just take seeds,
Supposed to
we
be healthy.
sprout them,
Correct.
and in that first bit of time, the first 6-7 days, the biochemistry of those is perceived to be something that is extremely rich in nutrients because it has to help
Correct.
the plant grow, and that's good for us in terms of our
Right.
health and
Right.
yeah. So you have sprouts. Then the next stage is in a sense microgreens. This is not
Okay.
first 7 days. This is from day 7 to day 15. So within
Okay.
15 days, usually your microgreens are ready.
So
Right.
from day 7 to day 15 is when microgreens are ready to be eaten.
Basically day 15.
Yes, 15.
Somewhere between 10 to 15
Okay.
they will be eaten.
Okay.
Now they have a little less nutrition in a sense in some senses than sprouts, but they are available to us to consume. They are still very rich in nutrients, and this is why a lot of people are saying this is a great way to consume vegetables.
And they
Okay.
really pack a flavor. If you eat radish microgreens, it's like up your nostril.
Is it?
It's
Yeah.
really strong.
Extremely
If you eat
flavorful.
basil, for example,
Yes.
as microgreens, it's just amazingly fragrant. If you eat tamri bhaji, it's really got the essence of tamri bhaji flavor.
So
in
you
it.
can make microgreens of different
Yes.
Of different
veggies.
things.
Yes.
And for instance,
Okay.
chefs love them because it looks very nice.
Good
a
on the
plate.
salad.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
As garnish.
Yes.
Of course.
Exactly.
Of course.
And
of
then
course.
you go to what is called the baby stage, where you eat them early when they are young, a little more subtle in flavor. And then when you want something for a bulky vegetable, so you can eat at different stages,
yes.
and you can choose what you want to eat
Right,
at different
right.
stages.
So viewers, Karan and Yogita are telling us so many benefits of eating organic and having your own garden. So while Yogita is giving us tips and showing us things how to do, maybe you should bring down your book and pencil and write, because that's what I would do. But yes, Yogita, now
She'll
we
move
have
on to the-
decided about the space. We are just going to use
Yes.
whatever, and then now we are moving to a pot.
Yes. So now the next question is, okay, now I've got my soil. How do I prepare a pot correctly?
I think
Right.
if I can interrupt, one step before that, which is you've chosen a balcony
Right.
or a terrace.
Yes.
It is a physically limited space in some
It is,
senses
it
compared
is,
to a garden, which
it
we
is.
really like.
Yes.
And in a sense, the pot is the easiest, most convenient, and most efficient way to grow there, which is why we use pots.
Right.
People can use grow bags also.
Yeah.
We find that the life of that plastic is a little less, so we prefer to use pots. You can use earthen pots, you can use metal pots, you can use plastic
Yeah.
pots, depending on what you
Recycled
like.
containers, anything.
Anything.
You'll see
Okay.
up ahead, I've used a bathtub to grow onions.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So yes,
So-
you can use just about anything,
Anything that holds soil
Right.
and can allow the water to drain through is good to go for a container to grow food in. And then
Okay.
of course you have to choose the right depth for the right kind of
Okay.
plant. So I'll tell you about that.
So please go ahead and tell us about the pots,
Okay.
how we choose our pots.
Okay, so I have here with me a couple of pots. One is a 12-inch pot and the other is a 10-inch pot. Typically plants that are leafy vegetables, palak, tamri bhaji, arugula, lettuce, mustard greens, all of them thrive really in a pot that's about 10 inches deep. The larger ones, larger plants and fruit bearing plants like chilies, tomatoes, brinjal, etc., minimum go for a 12-inch depth pot, or even a 14-inch depth pot would work really well. What to keep in mind is that your pot should have holes so that the water drains through. A few slightly recessed holes are great because it means that the holes will not get clogged. Now the first thing that you need to do when you're preparing a pot is to line the bottom with what we call crocks. Essentially these are just broken pieces of pots, terracotta pots. And the reason we do that is so that the holes don't get plugged and clogged with soil.
Right.
So I'm going to go ahead and just, put these in. Yeah.
While you're doing that, Yogita, could I ask a question?
Yes.
Samir Joshi has sent a question. First and foremost, where do you buy this type of soil? Which you've already answered, Karan. And the next question is, how do you know it's good quality soil?
So a lot of times we intuitively know this, but when we haven't been gardening, we may feel that,
Absolutely.
oh my
Oh,
gosh,
yes.
I don't know anything,
Yes,
I don't want
of
to make a
course.
mistake. But just think about it. Some of the most fertile soil that we see is in a forest. And
All
by
right.
that I mean, if you walked in any forest, you will go in and there is certain way soil looks there.
Okay.
So if you think about it, the first thing is it's dark. It's not
Right.
reddish in color. It's very loamy because it has a lot of these leaves decomposing and organic
And falling,
matter.
yes, okay.
So you basically look for darker soil. That
All
is
right.
one way to look at it.
Okay.
The second thing you will see, it's very light. Like when you walk in the forest, your feet, it's springy beneath your feet. It's not
All
like
right.
walking on a road.
Right.
It's very
Yes,
different.
yes.
So you want very loose soil. You
All
don't
right.
want compacted soil that's clumping together, right? The third thing that you want to look out for in addition to that, as I said, is that you don't have too much of stones and pebbles, because if you look, for example, at the soil at this time of the year, if you look in most of your gardens, you will have seen that most of the soil has washed out because of the rains and you are left with just a lot of pebbles. So that's the other thing you don't want to have in your soil. These are three kind of broad things you want to consider.
Okay.
Right.
I'll continue. So you can see here, I have basically lined the bottom of the pot with stones, with crocks, broken tiles, pots, whatever. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just fill the soil into this.
Now, if for some reason you don't have crocks easily available, these broken pots, you can also use stones and pebbles, larger
Right,
stones
right.
and pebbles. They do the same job. What you're trying to do is not let the soil flow out, and you're trying to make sure the water still has room to flow out. You may not realize it, but many more of us kill plants through overwatering than
Yes.
through underwatering. So most of us end up putting too much water into the plant, not noticing that perhaps you can do with a lot less.
Right.
Right. So that's something to keep in mind.
Okay.
Okay, one thing I'd like to say is that I've often seen people will buy a pot that's bigger and just half fill it, something like this. And I find that that's not a good thing to do, because the plant is not getting the full sun light that it should. There isn't enough ventilation. If it's down there, there
Okay.
is not enough air circulation.
So what should be, the distance
should-
between the edge and the soil?
I would say about an inch off,
All
so
right.
that I'll talk about it later. You can cover it with dry leaves and mulch. So like this is not okay. Don't do this. Go all the way, fill it to the top, which is what I'm going to do. And
Could you take one question?
Yes.
Brenda Gonsalves Gracious asks, can you make coco peat from coconut husk if it's available at home? Is it the same? Can we do that?
In a sense, after your coconut husk decomposes for a while, it will become like coco peat.
Okay.
It's actually coco peat is the sort of dust left over once they extract the twine for the ropes.
Okay.
Correct?
Right.
So when it's decomposed enough, yes, you can. Having said that, even the husk itself, just be careful, it's again not grown in a place or stored in a place where there is a lot of saline water.
Okay.
So salinity is something you want to avoid, but you can basically use that and mix into your soil also, and it will still give you many of the similar kind of benefits that we are saying.
All right.
But it's just that since this has finer particles, it's easier to mix in nicely. That's why we prefer to use this.
All right. So, Brenda, I hope that answered your question. Alice Almeida Matthias asks, can we add eggshells to the mix?
You can. In this case, it is used. I mean, it's something that you can add, but it decomposes very slowly. So any translation of nutrients happens over a very long period of time.
Okay.
But it's a good thing to add to our soils, because in Goa there can be situations where we have deficiencies of calcium. And these contain, eggshells will provide the calcium, and it's
Okay.
great for tomatoes and things.
So do we need to crush it? You know,
You can just
and
break
then
it into small
okay.
pieces and
And
mix
just-
it in. It's
Okay.
actually a nice thing to put on the surface of your soil in the rains when you have lots of snails and slugs coming.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they have soft bodies. They don't like that feeling, obviously, of being cut on their tummies.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
it's a way to deter them. So you can actually sprinkle some eggshells at the top of
Okay.
that.
Okay.
So now I'm done with this.
Right.
All right.
So I have two pots prepared, a 12-inch one and a 10-inch one. And now I'm going to do something really important.
Okay.
Which is I'm going to cover the surface of this with dry leaves. And these are just from the garden. Right now they are partially decomposed, which is great. Smaller the leaves, you can break them up. And Karan, maybe you want to tell them the importance of
So it's
mulch?
coming back to what we were, so this may be the absolutely most important thing that people don't do in their
Yes.
gardens. That is the most useful to do.
Actually, Karan, I've never seen anyone doing it. I mean,
Right.
I've never done it, so I'm taking it that everyone doesn't do it. But that's
Often
that's
people say,
really,
"What are you doing?"
I
Like,
know.
it's
Why
becoming,
creating a mess
it's
in
becoming
such
ugly
beautiful
and
soil?
Absolutely. I mean, such lovely soil. Why did you mess it up?
So you want to think of it as like beauty aging treatment, you know. You want to
Yes.
keep that beautiful soil beautiful. So that's the reason that we tend to use mulch. And mulch is again one of those pieces that you see in nature. I was giving you the example of the forest, right?
Right.
The best soil is in the forest because leaves fall from the trees,
Exactly.
cover up the soil, protect it from rain, protect it from sun, keep the microbe populations high, and they stifle any competing weeds.
And this
Okay.
just
So all of these benefits come to
I
you
know, I
just
know.
by doing a very simple thing that is covering with a 1 inch or 1.5 inch layer of mulch. It makes gardening so much easier. Like we were talking, I think, before the session started about how somebody needs to write a book about being a lazy gardener.
Yes.
You know, where you do as little as possible and you still have good results. So it helps because first of all, you don't have to water as much. If you just look at how people spend time in the garden, it's watering. So okay, now it needs 50% less water because
Okay.
it will stay there. It'll go
it
2
protects,
days, 3 days.
doesn't dry out.
At this time of the
Okay.
year, one deep watering in the monsoon. The
I've
whole
been-
week you can water
Yeah.
only once in the week.
I've been watering my plants. This pudina gets maybe once every 3-4 days. This is from my kitchen.
Right.
This is from my kitchen garden. I mean, I
Kitchen
just have a
Right.
kitchen with that grill,
And
box grill.
you just pointed out to this. First glance, it looks like those look like berries.
Yeah.
But you told me that they are not berries. I don't know if our viewers can see this.
Yeah.
You know, they
So-
are black chilies.
If you're adventurous enough, you would like to just break up the biggest ones and pop it in here.
Karan, I am really not, and I don't go get along very well with spice and hot. So no thanks, but they look very, very attractive. And
These are not very
yes.
hot. They taste great in cocktails and things. It's
Okay.
a mild kind of thing, but
Very
a lot of
productive.
flavor.
They grow well and
And
not
really,
grow.
just
Right.
the plant will be full of it.
Okay. Now speaking about mulch, right now there is so much of mulch around. So, like, is there any way that I can collect it and I can store it? I don't know. I'm just asking because maybe later I may not get this kind of mulch. I'll get some dried leaves. Now
But-
these are not completely dried from what I can
They
see.
can be dried leaves also. It's
Dried leaves
fine
are
because
fine.
once you water them, they'll become damp.
All right. Okay.
So
That's not
the most wonderful thing is that these leaves are very easily available. Now,
Right.
if you would have seen over there, that is mulch, but it is sawdust. It's actually shavings from woods.
Yes,
rather.
yes.
So that also works. So if you have a carpenter close by, don't use ply shavings because that has glue in it.
Okay.
But wood shavings work very well.
All right.
Now the beauty of it is that everybody is giving away the mulch free.
Or
and
burning
it's one
it.
of the most, or burning it.
I mean, people
That's what I
collect
mean.
up dry leaves and they just light it
Right.
and they feel, now my garden's got
And the worst thing is
No.
it's happening in farms, it's happening in gardens, where I'm just thinking, why would you do that? You're giving away such a great
It's a resource.
and wasting it, right?
No, but it looks very ugly. My question to you would be, can we mix it into the soil rather than just keep it on top?
So the first thing is, when we walk in the forest, do we ever look over there and say, oh, how ugly? So I think just it's a certain way that we think in the city.
Okay.
That in that context, we've started thinking of these as untidy.
No, what I mean is you have a well manicured lawn, you have a beautiful garden with a lovely border and stuff like that, and then you see mulch lying around. So, aesthetically it's like...
No, mulch can be beautifully done too. Like I said, if it's done right. And more importantly, are you interested in beautiful vegetables and fruits, or are you interested in beautiful soil?
Both?
Yeah, well,
Both?
in this case,
But beautiful vegetables will come with beautiful soil.
and without
So,
doing much
yeah.
work. So I'll tell you, in addition to saving your time in watering, what is the other thing gardeners are doing all the time? They are weeding, right?
Oh,
Most
yes.
of you would be down
Just
over
see,
there
none of
in a
these pots
bend
have
over
weeds
and
on
put.
them.
We haven't weeded any of these things for years.
The
Because if it's stifled, the weeds don't grow.
They don't grow back.
And so you don't have to weed. So now you can be a gardener sitting on your balcony, enjoying the view and doing
cup
very
of
little
tea.
work.
And
having a cup of
telepathically
tea.
telling your plants, you need to grow.
Yeah.
I need those vegetables. Today I'm planning a salad and so on and so forth. Now, my question still stays. Can we mix this? I mean,
No.
is
You
that...
shouldn't, because it
They-
is supposed to be a blanket over the soil.
And you've already mixed in. This is organic matter. When this decomposes, this will anyway mix into the soil.
Okay.
And it's full of nutrients, so it will add to your soil. It will not take away. So you need to keep this replenished and top it up. After a few months or maybe a few weeks, you'll find that a lot of it has decomposed and it's
Right.
gone in. You top it up with more. The rule is you should never be able to see your soil.
So speaking of not seeing, there is another
Okay.
thing that we are not seeing. By doing it this way, we have assistants, maybe 1 million different gardeners working under this mulch.
Absolutely.
For us, in our favor, to keep that soil rich, to keep it, rich in nutrients, and to improve the way in which nutrients are being transmitted to the plants. And those magical gardeners are microbes, which most of us will just get Dettol and want to spray away. But a lot of these are helpful microbes.
We
And-
learned that in school, Karan, if you remember, right? It brings back memories from school. The earthworm is a farmer's best
Yes,
friend.
yes.
Yes, of course.
And
right.
he's one of the fellows, and there are literally a million
I
others
can
that are
imagine.
useful and beneficial to
Right.
us. So
Visible and
it
invisible.
creates a cool environment in our context. If you are in a cold place, it would create warmth for
Warm.
the creatures down there to just do their thing and mimic nature in this little lab, or so, if you want to call it, of yours.
Right.
It also keeps the soil cool, which means, like, imagine you were standing on a beach with the sun beating down and your toes
Right.
burning. The plants like that as little as we like that, and so
Fine.
therefore you want to make sure. So there are these 5-6 benefits which make mulch the most important thing you can possibly do in your garden
Right.
if you want to grow with good results in sync with nature,
Right.
rather than working against nature all the time and
Right.
having to fill the gap with your effort.
Okay. So
So-
I'll just do a small recap, because if there are viewers like me who are forgetful, this would be a good place for them to remember and jot down. So soil is the most important thing for your gardening.
Yes.
And in soil you need to have 50% of good soil, 25% would be the vermicompost, and 25 would be the coco peat.
That's
Right.
right.
In the event that I do not get coco peat and I've searched, and or like me, if there are some lazy ones there and they don't search and they say I can't get it, I can still use the coconut husk, as I think it was Brenda who asked us and said can we use husk. So I can use that. Once that is done, I need to make sure that there is about 1 inch or 2 between the soil and the pot. Am I right?
That's right. So
I'll
that's
just correct
there's room for
one
the
thing. You don't use the husk. You use the powder that's left.
From the
Yeah,
husk.
so actually making of coco peat happens when the fiber inside is
Okay.
removed and whatever dust is
Right,
left is
right,
what
right.
coco peat is.
Okay.
Right.
And if you use the husk, it's okay as a bottom layer, but you cannot mix it in the soil. It'll be really clunky and it'll just be unwieldy, especially in a pot.
So it has some
So-
benefits, but the coco peat will be much easier to do.
Okay.
So it'll actually save you time if you just find the coco
Coco
peat and
peat.
save you effort.
Okay, fine.
As opposed
We'll,
to
we'll
that.
take that. Could we, if there are some questions, I'll just check on those.
Okay.
And in the meantime, you all are going to start with the seeds. Now, I am very eco-friendly and all. I'm very proud about that. So what I do is every time I'm cooking, whatever seeds I have, like, you know, even when I'm cutting a chili, I take a few seeds and I'll keep it aside. I keep them aside, I dry them, and lovingly, I literally lovingly look after them and keep them in a nice dry spot and then put them into my pot. But not all of them grow.
No.
And it's so
Question:
sad.
what kind of chilies do you use? Green ones, red ones?
Green.
There
I
you
use
go.
green as well as red.
That's the
Okay,
issue.
so
the greens will not.
Green. So you have to take mature seeds. Now this, when this matures, it turns red. Right now, if I cut it open and I look inside, the seeds will be very tender and small. As all green chilies, a green chili is an immature fruit. A red chili is a mature fruit. So when you take seeds, make sure you take from red chilies, or better still, take from the ones that have completely dried on the stalk. Same thing with brinjal. When it is eaten, it is purple or green, whatever. But once it ripens, it always turns yellow. That is a ripe fruit from which you take the seed. So
Right.
that's why your seeds probably are not working, because they are from immature fruits.
Right. So, you know, and what I do normally is, of course, now I'm going to go home with a lot of tips and I want to do it differently, is that I take those dried, seeds, and then I put them directly into my pot. And like, as I said, they don't always grow. And I keep like,
Where
I'm
did it go?
literally digging
Where
as
did
though
it
it's a treasure hunt. Ki, where did it? I put it there. I know I put it there. So it's not there. Yep.
So the seeds need to be harvested at the right time and in the right way,
Right.
and then you will have great results.
Okay.
One of the things to also remember is that sometimes we are eating hybrid kind of
Right.
varieties of chilies,
Yes.
for example. Right?
Yes.
So then those seeds won't exactly work as you planned. Right?
Okay.
So the idea is that it works well when you have regular sort of open pollinated
Okay.
or desi varieties of seeds. It works much better.
Okay. Now I can see you have put. You put them all into small little paper cups.
Yes.
Why paper cups? Why not like put
Directly.
it directly into
It's a
the pot?
great question.
It's a lazy gardener trick. Less effort.
But to answer or to give you more information on that, basically one that at least I know, if I put a seed in, I can check and see, is it still there, has it germinated or not. So now the mix that I use here, you remember the potting soil we made? There
Yes.
was 50% soil
25-25.
and 25-25.
Right.
So this mix has no soil in it. It's only that 25-25. So it is basically half coco peat and half vermicompost.
And no matter at all, no soil,
No
regular
soil at all. And this combination does not contain seeds of anything, not even weeds. I've done this in the past. I've planted seeds and something has grown and I'm
Yes.
happily watering it, and I realize, oh, this is not
This
what
is
I
not what I planted. Yes, it has happened to me.
So-
I thought it was just me.
No.
So I'm so happy to know that somebody else is facing the same problems that I do.
Same thing. So it keeps those seeds out, I mean the weeds out.
Yes.
It also makes transplanting a lot easier, and I'll just demonstrate
Okay.
how the transplanting
We can
works.
Yes,
Put it straight
I
in.
think you should.
So
While
maybe-
I look at a few other questions. So
Okay.
while you're doing what you're doing, could I ask questions, please?
Yes, sure. So I'm going to transplant. Now this is a 12-inch pot. I'm going to put in a red cherry tomato in here. And I am going to put, this is a Chinese cabbage, and it's a great leafy vegetable. It's a mustard, so it's got a nice spicy zing. And I'm going to give it a good 10-inch pot to grow. It becomes pretty large once it's a full-size plant. So I'm going to do that here. Now the way to do this is, you've placed your mulch on top. You part the mulch, make a little gap where the plant will go. You make a little hollow, and then, now ideally this should be watered a few minutes. This is a little dry, but if you water it, it will come out as one big plug. Here it's a little crumbly, but you can see very clearly how the roots have formed.
So this is really important.
This is
because
very
if
important.
while transplanting roots are disturbed or damaged, the time is lost in the plant recovery.
Right.
So
right.
we do it in cups to answer your question, because in this way it literally comes out like a plug
Yes.
with intact roots which you don't have to disturb, and it recovers almost within a day or two and it's growing again.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
So
now,
much
which
healthier.
plant did you say you
This
know?
is a Chinese cabbage.
Okay, Chinese cabbage.
Okay.
And there are two types of Chinese cabbages, or well, several types, but broadly two types. One is what you call the closed head, which we are familiar with in the market.
Yes.
Now those we get in that way because they have to be transported. If you had an open head, then it would get damaged and poor quality. So that is one kind of Chinese cabbage which grows better in very cool places. And then you can have an open head leaf, Chinese cabbage, an open head one like this, which grows all the leaves, same thing you won't get to consume, but it never forms a head. So
Okay.
it should not be confused,
Okay.
cause confusion amongst the viewers when they see this grow.
Then-
So one more. What
Sorry.
I'm doing here is I'm gently pressing it to make sure the plant isn't lolling around. Specifically, that's important because if there's a breeze, it can move a lot
Right.
and it'll break. It'll snap over there, and that'll be the end of your plant.
Okay.
Now in goes my cherry tomato in the same way. Gently
Tap the bottom.
tap the thing, and out it comes. Again, you can see the roots are as they are. The roots don't break.
Yes. Yes.
So it goes in.
So the white roots
Yes.
are the delicate feeding roots.
Right.
And if those are disturbed, then your transplant
Obviously.
shock lasts
Yes.
for a longer time.
Yes.
10 days more to get the vegetables you want to eat, or 15 days more also, depending
Right.
on the climate.
And make sure you keep the mulch a little away, just what they call the collar area. Just keep the collar clear so
Okay.
that the thing doesn't, the mulch doesn't touch the plants. And then you water, and we can talk more about what's right to water and all that, but you water this, and you should water immediately as you transplant, and your transplanting is complete.
Wow, that's interesting. There are a couple of questions that have been. There, I think there's Subhash who asked something about mustard cake, and I don't know what he is speaking about.
Okay.
And there is another person who says that's Subhash Nerurkar, and Vinu Mahale is asking, can we use tea leaves? Because I use tea leaves, all the time. As soon as I finish my tea, I drain it off and I put it. My question to you is that milk which is there in the tea leaves, which has been absorbed by the tea leaves, is that okay? I mean, is that okay?
It's okay.
In fact, the milk is probably better for your plants than the tea leaves even.
Oh, is
So
it?
the tea leaves are organic matter,
Right.
which you can incorporate.
Right.
Yeah.
But the milk has great properties. We use milk sometimes to improve, diluted milk, of course, to improve the growth of plants and also to deal with certain kinds of pests.
Really?
Yeah,
you
certain
can-
diseases.
So the milk will,
The milk
And what
is-
about the mustard cake that?
So what he's asking about is oil seed cake. There are oils extracted from different seeds, and
Yes.
whatever is left over is
Okay.
the cake.
Okay.
So mustard oil cake, neem oil cake, there are different kinds, all kinds, peanut when once you remove
Yes.
it. So all those cakes are great organic matter to add to your soil. They add texture, they have oil in them, and those different oils have different properties. So I recently read something where it was a great description on which oils. For example, mustard has a little presence of sulfur, so that takes care of some of the pest problems that are there. And
like thrips, I suppose, to some extent.
thrips. Then neem has a lot of pesticide qualities, so our pest repellent qualities. So if you put that, it improves the health of your soil. If you have problems like nematodes and things like that, it helps
So
prevent
what?
that.
I just take fresh neem leaves, pull it off the.
No, this is
This is
extracted.
different.
This
This is once the
extracted.
oil is taken out, the residue of that is
Okay.
the
No,
seed.
can I use? But since
use.
you're
But I
saying,
would put it another way. You can, but you don't particularly need to. Like, we don't do this all the time, either
Okay.
in pots or even in the soil.
Right.
So I would always say that you do what is sufficient. You don't have to do everything that is necessary, because they are trying to push it for agricultural purposes, because it pushes the productivity of the plant, right? So, but we are not doing professional agriculture. We're growing it home, and it's better to keep it simple. That's
Okay.
our view, and
Okay.
therefore we don't really use it much.
all right. There is a question from Sylvia Rebello, and she says that her chili plant grows well. However, the flowers come, and then they just fall off.
Okay. So-
Sylvia, just to let you know that I face this problem all the time. From the years I've been growing chilies, I think so far I must have seen actually 4 chilies. Okay? So yes, Sylvia, I understand your problem, of course.
That's true. You want
Yes.
to go?
So, falling flowers, premature falling of flowers means that there is some nutrient deficiency in your soil. And typically, research has told us that if there is a deficiency of potassium in the soil, then the plant cannot complete that reproductive cycle. The flower will come, but it will fall, or the
Right.
fruit will be really tiny and it will fall prematurely.
Right.
So to increase the potassium content of your soil, you can add muriate of potash. It is still not very clear if it's chemical or not, so we
Yes.
avoid it.
Yes.
But something else that is high in potassium is wood ash. Not leaf ash, but wood ash. It has a higher content of potassium in it. And you can also put in things like bone meal. Bone meal is from any abattoir, they have all the bones that are
Yes.
left. They are ground into this powder, dried and ground, and they are very high in potassium as well. So these are things that can improve the potassium content of your soil,
Okay.
and you will find an improvement in the retention of the fruits.
Okay. You said something, I don't know, it's a very foreign word to me. The first one, you said something is to be used. What was the first?
Muriate of potash. It's a chemical name.
No, you said if not that, then
Wood
you can
ash.
wood ash.
Or what we
is
call gobar, I think, locally.
Locally.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically,
You go
woody stems.
our bread. Our
Yes,
poders
yes,
have
yes,
a bakery.
yes,
They
yes.
burn twice a day their ovens.
Yes.
And all the ash that is there, they take it out and they throw it in one corner. And it's just lying there. So just
Okay.
go to your local poder and say, can I please take a bag full of
Yes.
ash? He'll be happy to get rid of it.
Okay.
And you have
But then you have to be careful as to how much,
That's right.
You,
How much?
you
You
use
have to
it.
sprinkle it like salt and pepper. You don't have to mix
Just
it in.
like
So
a small
fistful
handful,
is
yeah.
enough.
Right.
for a
in a
pot
pot
that
like this.
size.
Okay. Okay. Once I tried this, I don't know how much it worked because my seed, and there was no plant at all. The seed did not grow. But what I did was I had cleaned prawns. So I took the prawn head. I said, let me just, I'm sure there are others who do that as well. Let me just experiment. So I took the prawn head. I kept it in the sun. My neighbor did say there is some weird
Stink.
That's
but I waited for about it was summer, so in like 3 days it was completely dry. I powdered it
Oh, very nice.
and I put it for my pot. Like I said, the seed got lost. I don't know where. I went digging. I didn't find it, but that's a different story. But is that good? I mean, can we do things like that at home? Of
Absolutely.
things that
You
Absolutely.
can
If you talk to any of the traditional farmers here in
Yes.
Goa, there was once an older farmer I was talking to in Talegaon, and he says that when he was younger, he used to go into Panjim market and get a sack of
Those
for
cut
like some
waste.
20 rupees. He'd get waste, and he'd
Of-
get
Of fish
bangla
waste.
fish,
Yes,
and
yes, yes.
all the bits
Yes.
and pieces that people don't want, that refuse, he would take, put
Right.
it in a old style gunny bag, not these
Yes.
plastic ones.
Right.
Tie at the mouth, tie a big stone to it, and throw it in the farm pond that you have. And it would sit there slowly decomposing and releasing all the nutrients
Nutrients.
into the water. And that water he used, and he would water his plants every day. So that is typically what fish waste is very healthy.
But I
Right.
cannot use that waste and put it into my.
Not in a pot, I would say not in a pot,
Because
but if
of
you
the
have a
smell.
larger garden, it would
And
be
you
pretty,
may
yeah.
attract rodents or something like
Yeah.
that. So
Oh.
that is one thing to keep in mind. So
Right.
it's better to compost and put those in.
Right.
shallow.
But to answer relative to these pots, for example, I would water this maybe once every third day in this weather because there's so much of humidity.
Yeah.
I would water this also similarly. When I would water, you have your bathroom mugs.
Yes.
They're usually about
Yes.
a liter. So I'd put about maybe 3/4 of a liter here and maybe a full liter here, but once every 3-4 days. Just to give
Okay.
you a sense.
So not every day.
You don't need to put it, and especially not in this season. And my balcony faces the west, which means it gets strong sunlight from about say 2:30 till it sets. So in that weather also I find that you can do it once every other day in the dry times and once every third day in the monsoon season.
So, I've heard someone say, I think this person was loved gardening as well, and he said to me that the best time to water your plants is during the early morning.
Either
Is
that,
that
Early morning or at dusk.
okay?
my preference is the latter part of the day because in our climate, when you water, it dries very quickly.
Yes.
And the actual action happens in the soil when there is moisture. So when
Right.
you pour it at night, say by 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock in
Right.
the evening, or whenever you remember in the
Right,
evening,
right.
it has the full night. The water is not evaporating. It has a full night, and it'll be probably 10, 11 o'clock by the time it really begins
So
evaporating.
5, 6 o'clock is a good time.
It's a great time.
That would be our
Yeah,
favorite
I would
time
pick
to
that.
do it.
Okay.
That's when we would do it.
All right. Now, my next question. There are a lot of questions coming in, but a very pertinent question. How do I decide the size? Again, please just remind me.
Of the
like of a pot. Like what? On what basis would you decide the size?
So you do it based on what is the mature plant going to be like.
Yeah.
If you take, for example, this plant, which is the ginger plant.
Right.
Now we know it's going to get this big.
Yes.
So we can't use this pot for it. And we also
Okay.
know that because it's tubers, we want it
We
to
want
have
room,
space to
otherwise
grow
it will not
tubers.
form
right?
Okay.
the rhizomes.
So therefore, we will pick between a 12 to a 14-inch pot, which is a pretty large pot, right?
Okay.
14-inch means usually in
Right.
these kind of pots, it's 14 inches across
Yes.
and 14 inches this
That
way.
Okay.
the bush pepper
Okay.
is a 14-inch.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that in particular, the bush pepper. Look at the plant; it's such a big plant.
Yes,
You can't
it
stuff
is.
it into a small pot, and so that's how you choose it.
Right.
But for most plants, most vegetable plants, we found that these two sizes are the best sizes to grow.
So can you tell me what's the size? What are these sizes?
10 inches, 12
and
inches.
12. 10 and 12.
Right.
Now, I was just looking at, and I'm very envious of this because I've never got something as good as this. How long did this take you all to grow? I mean,
I would say
I'm
this
sure
is
there are people
Less than a year, no?
I don't
Yeah.
know if our viewers can see this, but lovely black
Probably
pepper.
about 20
Yes.
pods of pepper.
Oh,
So
More, more.
how long did
I
it take?
would say maybe a year.
Okay.
Maybe a year. No, this is a slightly older one. We
Okay.
have two of them. That one is about a year, which is also productive, but this one may be between a year and 2 years, say a year and a
Okay.
half or so. But it's
So it takes that much time.
Yes,
It does
yes,
take
yes.
that much time.
It
But
does.
pepper is a perennial plant, so it's worth.
Right.
And bush
You know, the
peppers are
investment.
particularly good for home gardeners because they're not rambling all over the place. You
Don't
don't have a
take much
kulagar in
space.
the house. So
Yes.
And they
it's-
love shade. So
And they love the shade.
Okay.
put it in your shadiest balcony.
All right.
Right.
Okay. Fine. So we have completed about the soil. We have, spoken about the pots. We've spoken about how to grow seeds in small little cups and then to transplant it.
Actually, I would like to just demonstrate very quickly how to sow seeds, and that's a question
yes,
that
please.
people often have.
Right.
And
I think some people struggle with seeds and some are virtually intimidated by the process of germination.
so I have here with me this what I call a nursery mix.
Okay.
50% coco peat,
Coco peat and 50% the vermicompost.
Yes, and I have a party cup.
Yes.
It's a 150 ml party cup.
Yes.
And I'm going to just fill this up till the brim, not halfway through,
Right.
because I want to make sure that the cup has enough. Maybe Karan, you can tell them about which seed to sow and which to.
Yeah, so it is also important that you are planting the right seed at the right time of the year. One principle that we follow in organic growing is that we want to have a lot of diversity of planting, so we don't grow too much of something, right? Not of one thing. So if you will see over here, Yogita has different choices. She can choose from the mustard or from the
Unique.
cucumber, or she can choose from the chilies and the tomatoes, right? So that's exactly how it will turn out in our garden also. We want to grow all these different things in order to make sure that we create a diverse environment that creates more protection against pests. The second thing is certain pests exist only at certain times of the year. So if you're growing things out of season, you will have a challenge. The plants don't like the conditions at that time, so they are a little weaker, and then the pests come in and kind of attack them, and their immunity breaks down and plants die. So
Okay.
this is what we want to try and avoid.
All right.
So we are actually coming into the cool season in Goa. From October to sort of February is what we call the winter growing season, where you can grow the widest collection of vegetables. If you see traditionally, you'll see it in Talegaon elsewhere also, this is when radish goes down.
Okay.
It goes down
Yeah.
because the soil will dry out after the monsoon.
Right.
A lot of the Talegaon area, for example, there are sandy soils which are lovely for radish.
Right.
For obvious reasons, they have lots of place to grow and
Grow,
they're not all
exactly.
kind of closeted in, right? And basically you have the cool weather that they love, right? So radishes will be ready in just 30-35 days. It's that quick. for example.
Okay.
But you can also grow things like lettuces. A lot of people like leafy greens, lettuces do better in the cool weather, especially from November onwards. If you want, you can also plant in October broccoli, cauliflower and cabbage.
No.
And you will have cabbage heads and cauliflower head and broccoli heads
Jan.
by late Jan,
Yeah.
in the second half of Jan or just early February. So a little bit of it depends on how the climate exactly goes when the cool weather comes and all.
Okay.
But otherwise that's it.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
you know what? We just have. There's a very, very unique question that's come. I think it's Ashley who says, "Do you know what? Can we use human hair?" I suppose Ashley, must be finding hair in the house or whatever. Can that be put
maybe
into?
he's a barber.
Or maybe he's a barber.
Haircutter.
Yes,
He
he
runs
is a
a
barber.
salon.
All right. So can that be used because we have to wind up?
It won't really help much because
No.
if you see, human
Okay.
hair doesn't decompose fast.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
When you dig up the tombs, you'll find
Hair.
human hair.
All right.
So it's
Another
not-
question is these cups. Do I need to make
yes,
holes?
always.
Yes, at the
always.
bottom with the
Just take a
toothpick.
ballpoint pen or a toothpick, poke
And make it.
holes.
Okay.
And the rule of thumb is that the seed goes as deep, or rather, how deep should the seed be? It should be twice as deep as the thickness of the seed.
Okay.
So it means
So
if
you don't bury the seed
you don't
6
bury
feet
the seed.
under.
Right.
Yeah.
You just put it just below the surface.
like
Right.
if you
At
have
okay.
tamri bhaji seed, which is tiny, and tamri bhaji can be transplanted, and transplanted tamri bhaji is very productive. Tiny seeds, you literally just sprinkle it on top, take a little bit of soil and sprinkle to make sure that the seed is covered.
Because only a thin layer for a small seed.
This is a bottle gourd seed.
I will
This-
just interrupt to
I
say
will poke.
one thing that doesn't do well in the winter season, almost the only thing I think, is ladyfinger.
Yeah.
For some
Okay.
reason, much more in terms of pests and problems growing
All
ladyfinger
right.
in this time of the year.
Okay.
Everything else grows. Anything you can imagine,
Okay.
almost.
I think we've learnt a lot. Could I ask a question, please? A last question. Could I take your plants? I think that's a no, but I've learned so much. Guys, next time I think I am going to bring my plants and show it to you all.
Nice, nice.
And say, this is what I've learned from Yogita and Karan, and I'm sure, guys, you too have learned a lot. Thank you, both of you, so much. Thank you so much. And I know for a fact that I am going to be a better gardener today than I was just an hour ago. Thank you again. And
Thanks,
thank you
Maria.
to all our viewers for joining us. If you have suggestions, remember I say this after every workshop and talk of us, that if you have any suggestions, you have any feedback, we are very open to it. Do send it to us. We love reading your mail. We love reading the comments. Some are funny, some are not, but it's just variety. Thank you again. Write to us, and till then, take care of yourself. Bye for now.
Bye.